be more profitable for you, then it will be X amount of money. Is that something I should expect?
Well, I think it depends, depending on the actual ask. You might expect that response from the seller, but you can also, if you go to the specific gig that you're looking to buy, in the extra, it'll describe exactly what you're looking for. So, for example, if they say, for $5, you get 50 words for a blog post, right underneath, you can see gig extra said, for another $5, you get 100 words.
That's my
right.
question. So where is that drop down? Like, what is that part of?
It's part of the gig profile page. So
the gig profile page?
Yeah, so the moment you click into the gig, it'll be a drop down menu that's displayed right below the
So
screen.
there's no big surprises because on the gig profile page, I'm going to see my sequential upsell.
Exactly.
You do a very good job of that. Once you put on what you want for $5, it goes to the whole page and shows what the guy was for 25, for 50, for 100.
That's what I'm doing. Okay, cool.
But aren't there some other situations where they say if you're looking for this kind of thing, message me first so that I agree with whatever.
Yeah, so in that scenario, the custom offers will come in, right? So if you're looking for something very specific that seller does not offer, you can contact them and ask them how much would it cost to develop this particular project, and they can respond to you and say it would cost me X amount of dollars. Here's a custom offer that you can accept it.
So for the custom offer, it's like appreciating the first, right? There's no like posting.
There is actually, and again, like we emphasize the main catalog experience, but if you searched for something that there wasn't a single seller offering that particular service, we'll let you know, hey, look, we don't have, and it's rare, but let's say you found it, we'll say, post what you're looking for, and then that goes into a section where only sellers can see, and they can make you an offer based on that.
Will there be in search results if it's not available?
Yeah, so if you search for something and it's not available, you'll see it says, sorry, but you can create a buyer report. They're called buyer requests.
Fiverr is relatively newer than like Odesk or Elance or other marketplaces, and those had sort of a lot of liquidity, they've been around for like 10 years. So how did you guys like suddenly grow so quickly? What was the secret sauce there?
So I think compared to what Odesk is doing, it's almost very similar to eBay and Amazon. The seller gets the payment and then delivers the order, whereas in many cases for Odesk and Elance, it's a bidding process. You're hoping that someone will buy your product and then get paid for it. So in that model, if you're a seller, while the starting price is $5, you're going to get orders. And as you get the orders, you're getting paid by those. You don't have to worry about whether you're going to get paid at the end of the day for the work you've done. We've heard horror stories from Elance and Odesk in terms of all the amount of time and effort you put into the project only to find out that someone helps up. So you don't want to get into that. So we offer a very clean, easy platform where the moment a buyer makes a purchase, it's already
with the custom offers, the custom proposals, then it becomes sort of similar.
Yeah,
but it's still not it does, but it's still not a completing process, right? You eliminate that bidding element, but you're right, it is a bit more similar to that.
But we definitely, that's why, like, we're definitely trying to stay. So what Elance and Upwork and Freelancer.com and all these guys do is their model is called a reverse auction. So you post what you want and everyone bids, and then the lowest bid is or not necessarily, but the customer decides which bid to accept. That's something that we desperately want to avoid implementing on our site. We want it to be more traditional e-commerce experience. So you shop for services the way you would shop for a product. That said, we know that again to facilitate more professional sellers and to help buyers who maybe don't know exactly how to search for what they're looking for. They don't know what category a particular service might fall under. Then it makes sense to allow them to post a request and let sellers. But that's always going to be like plan B. Plan A is always the regular practice. Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? Person doing some work, You know, is there any way you can have a local, like when I had the website, I went on Elance and some other places, and people were around the world or across the country. I just want to sit down with someone at a Starbucks and, you know, hang out a piece of paper and say, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? And have that. Is there any way you can find someone on Fiverr? I'm sure there must be a lot of people in New York on Fiverr. Do it local and you know.
So, I mean, the only local events we have are the ones that we host ourselves. In terms of the buyer-seller interactions, we limit that to just on the platform, and it's for a number of reasons. Primarily, to protect the buyer. In the scenario that the seller asks for, in that case, if you're the buyer, you want something done, we're really protecting you in that scenario. If the seller, you pay the seller and they don't deliver the work, there's no one to go to and say, look, I have. So we try to take a reason. You know, we've had sellers ask, like, where can I go outside the platform? But we run into issues with buyers complaining that if they do move outside the platform, it's something to show. We like to keep the interaction within the platform.
You're saying that you never meet the person doing the work.
I mean, you know, the way the platform is designed now, I don't think so.
I mean, so just, you know, to add another, for marketplaces or for platforms that let the two people connect in real life, there's some other considerations as well. Like, you know, they have to do we would have to do background checks on all these people so that, you know, they don't freak out at a coffee shop or, so that's one element. Then the other element is we obviously, like Cash said, we want the transactions to occur in the marketplace. And I mean, that's our business model, but it's also, again, like Cash said, to protect both sides. And whenever you introduce people, you know, off platform, you run the risk of the transaction being taken off platform, and then also one or either party, either the seller, maybe the seller does the work and you don't pay them, or you pay them and they don't deliver the work. So that's why we've always been really focused on keeping the platform really secure. And for sellers that we speak to, that we meet in person, they tell us the same thing, which, you know, especially for professional freelancers, one of the biggest pain points they have is of finding business, which is the one, you know, our number one solution for them is sending them business. But other than finding business, it's getting paid. And people that have had bad experiences, they don't want to take it off. You know, they want to make sure that it happens through us, and that we can be the watchdog for both parties. But yeah, unfortunately, at the time, you know, for the time being, we won't facilitate that. I mean, maybe you can figure out a way to communicate with the person, but that won't be.
You're not included, I mean, as long as you do all the financial transactions through the platform, there's no buyer and seller, so free to get together in person.
I mean, you know, people can.
Most of the service providers are not going to want to do that. They want to just sit there and just send it.
Yeah, and we won't facilitate a real life meeting. I mean, I'm sure it happens where like a seller and a buyer are able to exchange personal details, even though we you know, don't allow that. But I'm sure they can find a way to do that and meet up in real life. But that's not something that we would.
So that's basically, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen to all sides.
I mean, it could happen if, like Constantine, it could happen if you happen to meet the person or I'm sure about it. It could theoretically happen, but we don't encourage it, and it's not something that we allow ourselves to do.
Who was ever sold on Fiverr? Anyone here ever sold on it?
Right.
And what has that been like for you to sell?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I did it because it got me money to spend on Fiverr. It was years ago, and I was just experimenting because just word of mouth. I mean, my clients word of mouth. And so I just wanted to experiment with the platform, and it was fun to have the extra money and spend it all on Fiverr again. So I never banked it. Because it's so much fun to browse and try on. Yes.
And that was like only, that was in the beginning. Too.
Yeah, that
There
was-
no premium, so now premium, and now you can sell in bigger quantities, you know, get more for it.
What's the smartest way to use Fiverr?
So I'll just, this isn't, you know, official, I'm just giving you my experience as a customer. And Cash kind of mentioned it earlier. What I would recommend is, let's say you want to get a logo designed. I'd say find 4 or 5 guys that look like they've got a good offering, and pay them for their basic product, which oftentimes they'll be like, I'll give you 2 logo concepts in a PNG format, in black and white, you know, something like that. Do that for $5, get a bunch of concepts. Now you've got 10 concepts or 15 concepts to look at. Find 1 or 2 that you really like, and then invest in the seller to do a really high quality where it'll be, you know, it'll be a few extras, but you'll get the PSD file and everything, and, you know, 2 revisions and 24-hour delivery and etc. All those extras. So yeah, use it for inspiration, and then when you find something you like, invest in a really high quality seller.
And just to add to that, we even make it easier to get to that point, to identify those 5 or 10 sellers that you're going to invest time into and get inspiration from. They're, you know, going back to the question that was asked earlier, there are filters that allow you to filter based on types of level, exact work you want done. There's about, you know, about 20 different filters that you can just check off, and you'll get exactly what you need. Then you can go in and say, these are the 5 people that I want to invest their $5 in just to get the concept. So before you even get to the concept phase, there are other tools that are available to you as a buyer that you can check off to narrow down and zoom in and exactly.
Now, how did Fiverr get involved in this? You know, just fear that into that, and that's there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an exact answer, but I mean, it's, as I mentioned before, it was really just like a viral thing that happened. But in terms of identifying the business needs, as the company started growing, as the product became a bit more robust, the one thing we've done really well is really listen to our community, listen to who they're working with, understanding what their needs are. And so the platform itself grew out of the needs of the sellers. And over time, the buyers came just as the platform was growing itself. And so then we were able to identify what the buyers were, talk to them, get more feedback. But initially, it was driven, it was community driven, and still is in many ways. We host events throughout the year. We actually just had one last week in San Francisco with over 100 sellers. And what we do is we just identify what their pain points are and try to solve that with our product team. And so early on, it was community driven. We realized it was a business, and now a lot of the feedback still comes from the community, but as a whole, to accommodate buyers and sellers, we're looking at both sides of the feedback instead of just focusing on.
What percentage, like you were saying, you made money and then spent it on Fiverr, what percentage of the traffic is people, sellers, buying services? Like, you know, within small.
Yeah, I don't know it offhand. I mean, it's not really that material, but I mean, it exists, you know, definitely exists. And, you know, like I'm a buyer who also has a gig, you know, so it's, there's definitely overlap. But I can tell you that buyers who also sell is definitely small. I don't know offhand sellers who also buy. That might be a higher number, but it's a good question.
Well, the reason I was asking, so I'm doing some website templates, and for $5 I can't do all that. But I could buy something else from somebody for $5 and sell it, and lose 10 cents on it, and then still do it. Is that something that somebody can do?
Again, like I don't know the exact overlap of that, but I think it's a pretty small.
What is like the average cost? Since you guys started out with like $5, is it possible to build those templates and websites that might cost you $10,000?
So we don't share what like our average order value is, but I can say that it's much higher than $5, and that's because of especially as we educate our sellers on how to package their services, how to price themselves, and how to treat their gig like a sales landing page, how to talk about themselves and their service. They become really, really savvy at taking a $5 customer and upselling them to all these other necessary add-ons, like especially around time to delivery. That's one of our most popular extras, where a seller, I'll do a logo for you, plus $15, I'll get it to you in 24 hours. And they're free to price that however they like. So that's something really really common. And as we grow, I mean that order value increases consistently, week over week, month over month. So especially as sellers become savvier at selling themselves, and as buyers become more comfortable with the platform and know how to really get the most value out of it.
So what's the savvy seller do?
It really comes to, I mean, this is I'll give my take on it. A savvy seller will slice and dice their offering into really compelling pieces. So they'll charge for the number of revisions that they'll do. They'll charge for how quickly they'll deliver it. They'll charge for do you want a perpetual commercial license? Very common. That's something that we implemented as a platform, but the seller can offer you a commercial license to the content that they created for you. So sellers that take advantage of extras are the ones that are going to perform the best. The other piece with savvy seller is one that markets himself or herself. Some of our sellers they're talking about their gigs, and this is completely on their own. I mean, they do this on their own, but they're talking about their gigs on Reddit or on Twitter or Facebook. They're promoting themselves to their personal network and bringing those people on as customers. So yeah, marketing themselves and how they package their service.
Just to add to that, I think the really savvy sellers also understand who their competitors are within the platform itself. Understanding what your competitors are offering for a certain amount. So if you're, let's say, offering 50 words for $5, at some point, do you want to undercut? Do you want to offer more? Do you want to offer less? Really looking at the landscape and figuring out what to offer yourself, what kind of twist you can add to an existing gig that someone else is already selling. And a lot of that happens within our forum. There are a ton of discussions between sellers on how to optimize their specifically, what they can offer that's unique, which is actually really interesting considering they are competitors, but at the same time they're helping each other identify ways to make more money themselves.
So that's a forum that's just there for sellers.
Sellers, yeah, it's an open forum for sellers to have discussion. We announce new features and have discussions with sellers as well, but it's really good for them to take advantage of the platform.
And you hear most of the feedback online or events or Facebook page?
So it's a combination. We have the forum where we get a lot of feedback from sellers. Our own social channels, when we distribute content, we get feedback in the comments, we get feedback on our blog. And then there are a select group of sellers who have started their own discussion forums on Facebook and other areas where they invite us to just participate. But we're really just there to listen to their feedback. If they have concerns, they'll tag us, we'll know. So it happens in a variety of ways. And of course, when we have events, we get a ton of feedback because this is the first time they actually get to interact with us and get to meet us. And that face-to-face interaction, it's tremendous. The stories you hear, the feedback they give us, we try to make the changes as soon as possible when we get that feedback. But I'd say it's maybe like 60-40 online versus offline, but we're doing more and more offline events in the office in cities to facilitate this kind of conversation.
And what would you say is the fastest growing market?
Like category within so graphic design is our number one category. That's really what that drives that's one of the driving categories in the marketplace. Writing and translation, which copywriting is one of our most within that. Copywriting is one of our most popular subcategories. Video and animation, music and audio. So I'll give you like a perfect use case. A startup comes to Fiverr, they get their logo done, they get an explainer video for their website with a voiceover, and they get copywriting done, just website content, blog content. That's how a typical startup or small business might very quickly bang out a lot of things, a lot of assets that they need using Fiverr.
What do you mean by what do you mean they get their copyright done?
So a common service on Fiverr, like a popular service, is blog content. So you would give the seller the topic.
Oh, so you're talking about content writers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because that's different than copyright to me is when you fill out the form and do the work to Washington. Creating content is what these people need. They need the content.
Right. I mean, we use copywriting as well. It's like,
okay.
But, and the other related to that is also, I forget. I think you mentioned it earlier, like proofreading and editing. Also, a really popular subcategory on Fiverr, related to those to copyright as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah, a few months ago, you did something that kind of invalidated the name of your service. You added a 50-cent extra fee. So basically, every gig is $5.50 now. It definitely changed the way that I approach buying on Fiverr. So I was wondering if you could explain a little bit why you did that, and if you have seen any effects of that change.
I'll feel so the processing fee that we introduced is meant to cover our payment processing expenses that we owe to the credit card companies, PayPal and etc. It was, to be very transparent. It was a difficult decision to make because previously that was something that we would just try to eat that expense ourselves. But our main, again, our number one value proposition to sellers is we're going to send you a ton of customers. To do that, we need to market. We need to invest in marketing to the sellers and marketing the platform. And by passing along the payment processing fees to the buyer, we're able to invest more in growing the platform and getting more customers to our sellers. The second part of your question, we didn't see any real drop off, which was something that we anticipated seeing something. It was pretty flat. But I'm curious how you mentioned that it changed how you approached it.
It's kind of cheap, but now it's cheaper. It's 25 cents cheaper probably. If you buy 2 gigs, save the seller. Save some pennies. So I would buy 2 gigs probably easier than before. Whereas before I would just buy the $5 gig and see if I like the results, and then upgrade after. So I spend more money now, which is good move.
No, that's really. Yeah, we didn't get any feedback really from our sellers. It doesn't really affect them as much. From buyers, again, we expected some sort of feedback for the processing fee, but there really wasn't any. The few buyers that we did talk to, it was kind of an expectation. If you look at other e-commerce platforms, many of them already have processing fee built in. And so some of them just don't display it. We were very transparent in what it was so that our buyers understood what the charges for. Most e-commerce platforms built in, you can read about it somewhere else. So that expectation was already there, so they didn't really have much to say. It was kind of like, all right, well, it's about time almost. You guys took this long to get there. So yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot of feedback about it, but there wasn't much to go off on that.
Is it 50 cents flat for whatever price it is? If it was like $100 paper?
It goes from 50 cents to 5%. So it's 50 cents up to $10, and then 5% after that.
What was motivated to scale the sell side or the buy side? Maybe in the beginning now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about now. I mean, buyers are really easy. It's really, it's very easy for a customer to understand why they should shop on Fiverr because it really is unbeatable value. You're not going to beat us on that. So yeah, I mean, for I think buyers are definitely the easier side of the market.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So I work a lot with sellers. Part of that is education, part of that is talking to them, informed, approach. And sellers tend to take longer. Part of the reason is some of the questions that people ask is concerning about how they can slice up their per hour rate. So educating them on how to get more out of the platform, getting them to understand that new features are really there to benefit them, and how to take advantage of those features. So we get sellers who expect the moment they start to get all of these orders. So it's really setting the expectation and making them do certain things so that they understand how to do it better when they move up the level. So if you get past the first level, you get additional traffic. How do you take that traffic? What can you do to market yourself better? That process is longer. So it's on the seller side, it just takes longer to acquire sellers, getting to understand how the platform works, what they can get out of it versus buyer, which is very transparent. You're going to get something starting at $5, ranging up, easy to buy. The seller, it's not really as clear, so it just has to take longer.
I think maybe you touched upon it before in the beginning when you were talking about how Fiverr is very community-based, but I think for a lot of services in the sharing economy, the services are provided by also the people who are perhaps maybe the buyers or the sellers. And so what was Fiverr's strategy, also I guess in line with what you were asked, what was Fiverr's strategy in trying to recruit these sellers in the very beginning? So it's sort of like a chicken and egg problem, right? If you don't have any sellers, you can't have any buyers. How did Fiverr go about and trying to solve that?
So I can't speak to the exact strategy for sellers because I wasn't around. But what we've been doing in the last year and a half since I've been there is mostly word of mouth. It's getting people to understand what they're offering is and then talking to other freelancers, getting our own community to go out and talk about that. And we've had, varying degrees of success where our top-rated sellers have gone to host very similar meetups like this, but they'll go and talk about Fiverr, and they do it on their own. They come to us just for support and resources, and we provide that for them. So it's something we've done lately that's worked really well. And we've had cities that we've had community events in, who left, and we get really excited as they go out on their own to do exactly the same thing. So we're starting to take advantage of that more and more this year. So we'll see where I go, but that's something that's working really well for us, and it's hopefully it continues.
I'll just add one thing on that. We talk to a lot of other marketplaces, and the chicken and egg problem is, if I had to give you an answer, and this is my point of view, is you go with the supply side first. That's how you build the marketplace. But just from talking to a lot of marketplaces, we hear that do very different things. I hear the same. I hear the same things from all of them, and these could be early stage, these could be much more mature marketplaces. But getting your suppliers or your sellers to market themselves and facilitating that, giving them resources, marketing materials, best practices, anything that you can give them to market themselves, that will accomplish more than spending all your money on buying customers. So it's really, empowering the community, educating the community, empowering the community to become representatives of, and also to treat it like they're building a business. Like our most successful sellers treat it like they built a business on our platform. We have sellers who've made obscene amounts of money, and they run it like a business. They market themselves. They run Facebook ads for themselves. They do events. They're out there, and that's really, and it's our job to help people who don't know how to do that yet, to help them learn how to do that and to start promoting themselves.
So I'm a little new to Fiverr. Do companies use this as sellers as well as individuals?
As sellers, not so much. I mean, there's probably a small percentage of companies that use it as sellers. Over time, they'll build it into a business and they turn it into a small business themselves. But we do know that buyers tend to be bigger, smaller startups, companies. But in terms of sellers, it's a very, very small percentage. And when we do identify these sellers who are small businesses themselves, we try to scale them up. We try to work with them on how to scale it faster and better, educating them how to take advantage of that stuff, making sure that if they are on our platform as sellers, they can use that as an additional tool for whether it's their website or other areas that they're making sales. But Fiverr becomes an additional tool to get more business.
Are there any assurances as to the originality of content that's not infringing somebody else's anything to protect buyers?
So we do have, so our support team handles all of the copyright issues, and we have a tool that captures any kind of copyright issues that come up from sellers that are either copy pasting or delivering images that may have been stolen from elsewhere. We also have a program in place where any company that sees that content has been copyrighted can quickly just go in. They have a login, actually, they can just go and identify those specific gigs or sellers, and we pull them down on that. So we give the power to brands and companies who may have been in a situation where their work is copyrighted. We give them that power, that ability as well. So it's a combination of us doing work on our end on the back end, but it's also empowering the brands who can come to us and claim that something.
And just to with any user generated content, we're doing everything we can to make sure that any risk, our goal is to reduce the risk of any copyright infringement to zero. But realistically, there's always going to be some bad apples who are they're using stock images that they know that they haven't paid for, or they're copying some of their plagiarizing. There are always going to be a couple bad apples. Like we're trying to weed those out as best as we can. And we rely on our buyers a lot we give them tools. If they see something, they should, they flag it so that we can look into it. And we have some other things coming out as well that are in the near future, over the course of the summer, some other measures that we hope will further reduce the risk of any copyright infringement. But it's something that we take really seriously because we want our buyers and our sellers to trust the content that they're getting. The terms of service of the site states, a seller to sell something has to agree that it's all original work. They own the rights to whatever they're using. And again, there is always the risk that it's not. So that's where, as the platform, we're trying to build in more and more of those safeguards. And we're pretty proud of the measures we put in place because we know way more mature companies that are 10, 15 years old that are huge communities of content creators that don't have some of these protections in place. And so we think that we're ahead of the curve on some of these things. But again, it's tough to monitor. There are millions of Fiverr, millions of Fiverr and sellers, and transactions occur every few seconds. So we can't monitor everything. The best we can do is, again, educate sellers so that they know what they can and cannot do, and educate buyers on the tools that they have. If they do see something, if they can flag it, we can quickly jump in.
The buyers, so I gather there's no like identification, but is there any certificate of originality or something? You know, what's provided to buyers? Is it the buyers must trust that they're back to publish a blog that, you know, is maybe original, maybe not?
I mean, we don't have an indemnification policy. Like I see on a lot of like stock content sites, up to $10,000 will indemnify. I mean, we don't offer something like that. We do offer a guarantee that if what you perceive is not what you ordered, that will reimburse you. It's a little tricky in the situation you described. There is an element of, we as the platform are trusting our sellers, and you as a customer are trusting the seller. And because we invest so much in this very robust rating system, the idea is that if a seller is doing something that's not completely above board, that'll be reflected in his ratings and in his feedback, and then we'll be able to either remove them from the marketplace if what they did warranted that, or bury them in the search results. So our better sellers, the high rated, the top rated sellers, the level 2 sellers, the top guys, they're fanatical about their strength. They know exactly their subcategory where they rank, and they know that doing anything that, delivering something that the customer is not happy with, or getting any sort of negative feedback, or doing anything that's a violation of our service is going to drop them down the rankings. And I mean, these guys they're seriously fanatical about their rankings. So you're always safe if you go with a highly rated seller, and you take the time to look at, all right, what's his rating? Let me look at his recent feedback that he's received, and things like that. But yeah, there's an element of trust.
Yeah, so you spoke about how you empower sellers to market the platform. Can you talk a little bit more about that, like how that works? And is that limited to sellers selling to other sellers, or is it also sellers bringing other buyers on the platform who they might get from somewhere else?
I mean, that's where we don't, other than educating them on a few things, which Patrick can talk better than I can, we're trying out a few different ways to make it easier for them to buy ads, for instance, promoting themselves. But in general, and this is just a hypothesis, we don't know this for sure, but we believe that our sellers are bringing on their network. They're bringing their, maybe not existing clients, but they're telling their friends and family about it. They're posting about it on their social channels. They're posting positive reviews that they got on their social channels. They're active on other forums that we don't control. They're just out there talking about themselves and sharing positive results and sharing work that they've done. I mean, especially for our graphic designer, our graphic design sellers, they have amazing portfolios that I'm assuming they're sharing. I mean, but again, this is just it's a hypothesis, but it's definitely something that marketplaces, that most marketplaces realize at one point or another, that it's about helping your sellers become representatives of the product.
Yeah, and that's where the education component it plays a huge factor in terms of getting sellers to go out there and do stuff on their own. So even if we don't have a tool to allow them to sell more or to advertise themselves, we tell them about other tools. So we educate them on ways to do other things so that they can get more exposure, they'll get more orders, greater reach, whether it's through the existing network or outside the existing network. So we do, use a lot of quality content to educate sellers on how to do exactly what they need, along with stories and inspiration and getting into see ways that they can improve their own portfolios. But the education aspect and sales and ads across the board, it plays a huge role in sellers understanding how they can make more money.
Just out of curiosity, when it says most of the gigs are, say, only on Fiverr, is that like part of the terms of service or whatever, or is that, what is that?
They just do that on their own. I mean, we don't ask them for any, we don't ask them for.
You don't ask them for exclusivity?
Yeah.
I think there's probably one people on Fiverr to help us rank.
Yeah, that's the other, I mean, if you, like our search algorithm takes into account how much, the volume of orders that you're doing. So, you know, our safeguard against a seller taking, you know, transactions off the platform or, you know, or not taking it seriously, not investing a certain amount of time to make sure he's filling the orders that he's getting. Our safeguard is that the search results are going to reflect that. Like the people who show up at the top, if you search logo design on Fiverr, the people that show up at the top are they're going to give you amazing content, amazing customer service. Like they will do, again, they'll do more than we can do as a platform. Make sure that you're happy and satisfied. They'll do it fast. They'll do what they promise to do. All of that. So that's really.
So then I have to assume that at least for those sellers that are high ranking, that it's more profitable for them to go through the platform.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of our sellers, I mean, we assume that they have other sources of income, right? It's not just, for some of our sellers, Fiverr is their primary source, but for many, it's a secondary source of income. And, you know, they might, you know, I don't know how much time on average they invest in their Fiverr, in the time that they spend selling through Fiverr. But for the ones that want to progress and get more volume, get more orders, the way that they get there is by doing good work and by doing a lot of it. And then push them up and they get even more. I mean, we have voiceover artists in New York that we know of that come to the office who they get 50, 60 orders a day. So, you know, at low order values, that's offset by, you know, getting 50 or 60 orders in a single day, every single day. So, you know, those are, and they make themselves available to do those orders. They can do them well. They get good feedback. We send them more orders. That's really how.
So depending on the order value, that's hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
And let's not forget that for many of our top sellers, this is their portfolio. Right? In many cases, if you search for what the type of work we do as a freelancer, the first result most likely is going to be the Fiverr profile. So the more time they put into the platform itself, the higher the rankings are within our own search, but they're using that portfolio to showcase to the entire world of freelance capability. So in many cases, they have to invest more time. It matters to them to get high rated, to move up a level, to make sure that the time spent is actually going to benefit them. They can take that portfolio and share it with another source of revenue if they move up on the platform, or they want to bring in additional buyers. It's easier to showcase what has already been done versus starting over.
You have a question?
You have know what percentage of sellers are in the United States versus other countries, and is it broken down by different disciplines? Like I do, like a lot of voiceover people will be mobile, a lot of graphic artists people will be mobile.
I mean, we do have a breakdown. Majority of our sellers are based in the United States, but there's a significant breakdown in terms of where they're located and the type of work that they do. I don't know if we actually share that information, but it's we do know what the breakdown is. It's very specific.
But it's unusual for It's unusual for a marketplace for services like ours to have a majority of sellers in the U.S. Like, Elance and Upwork, Freelancer. A lot of they release a lot of their information, and what you tend to see is most of the buyers are in developed countries, and most of the sellers are in underdeveloped countries, and or developing countries, and so it's very unusual to see a marketplace where you've got a majority of both in the U.S. and then U.S., UK, Canada, Australia. That covers most of the marketplace.
The other question.
Where do you find ideas on how to do these projects? You could, let me give you an example. We're going to meet up. I have a meet up. How can I promote the work I do that? This is just a offhand example.
Sure.
I'm sitting there, with ideas.
So, I mean, we've had buyers who scour through our forums to get ideas, and
I do that.
So I mean, that's one use case, right? It's an example where our sellers are talking about services that they offer, and they're talking to each other. So in many cases, that's one way to get an idea of what you can offer. We provide inspiration for our buyers to take advantage of the platform itself. We have a ton of content on that as well. So you can get a lot of that on our blog. You go to, we share content every single day, and it's evenly split between content for buyers and content for sellers. So the sellers, it's a lot of content for how they can take their profile and make it better for more sales. For buyers, it's easy ways to take advantage of the platform.
I'm a buyer. I'm looking
No, I get that. So you can get some of that information there. Personally, when I look for stuff on Fiverr and for content that I've needed, it's always been I would search for other ways that I can get what I need done, and then Fiverr is the alternative. I need a blog post done. I'm talking about a specific topic. I always search to see if there's someone that can offer something similar. So it takes a little bit of time to actually.
You already have the idea. Answer my question right now. I have a meetup. How do I promote it? How can I use Fiverr to promote my grow? We're in a meetup right now.
I mean, we have online.
And there's hundreds of such questions.
Right. No. So we have online marketing services that allow you to move up within searches that you want to help you with content marketing. There isn't anything specific to promoting your specific groups or.
I just do that as an example.
No, but actually.
So what are the kind? So I think you mentioned that there are kind of core services that people go to Fiverr to get and start. A logo. Is that what your question is?
Well, you can ask.
No, that's not my question. My question is, okay, like, here's something, a general thing, there's a number of problems, what could I go to, what can I use on Fiverr?
So you're talking about.
When you get ideas. Well, I mean, memos is like a standard.
Like making a flyer, or is that what you're saying?
But maybe that's something we would do.
So what kind of marketing, is that what you're asking? What kind of marketing?
Well, that's okay, that's some possibility. You want to start a blog, have blog projects. Maybe you want to do videos,
Pardon my ignorance, but why such a high volume of voiceover people? What do they do? I mean, I know what voiceover people do, but why such a high volume? How are they used?
So, I mean, the most common use case is you have a website and you want to create a video describing what your product or service is.
So I do that. So I'm the one on the video.
Right. So one of the very popular things we see is like animated videos, so like a whiteboard animation, and it's the hand drawings, and then you need someone to narrate over it. I'm sure some people do it on their own, but what we've seen is, I mean, people love that combination of the animated video plus voiceover.
And you have people on Fiverr that create that animated video, and then you hire a separate person to voice over it?
Yeah, you can. I mean, there's some sellers that'll offer both.
Some sellers offer both.
But usually it's two different specialists that'll do that. And you'll see, I mean, for most of our video services, for instance, they'll say, I'll sync that for another $5, I'll sync the video and sign with you with whatever audio you send me. So, that's definitely, that's a common one.
I mean, just going back to your question, in many cases, our buyers don't have the time to really sit there and go through multiple edits of a video or voiceover work that they can do themselves. It's actually cheaper for them to hire someone on Fiverr to do multiple edits than it is for themselves to be in front of a microphone or camera and go through it over and over again when it can be done by someone else for $1. So for them, the time is more important than the actual amount they're going to spend.
The person that does the video, do they develop the content for the video, or I'm just like thinking about myself, like I would want to control the content on the video, and then I would think of the characters, and then I would probably mock it up so that I could have like an intelligent conversation with that person in the least amount of time with the least stuff. Do you have people who do that? I'm just curious. Do they say, okay, this is my subject, this is my content, go create an animation for me with this intention? Or do you come to that person and say, this is my intention, these are my thoughts, these are my phrases, create an animation that would, and create a character? Or do you come with the character thought, how does that work? There's so many variables.
So I can actually give you, so we actually use our, those animation sellers for a lot of the content we produce. And so you can do it both ways, but what we found that works really well is having the actual content. If you get a script written out and identify where you want someone to do voiceover, you can even have the interstitials. This is where I want paragraph to appear. This is where it ends. If you give them that, it's much easier
for them to create the animation.
Exactly, yeah. And you can pick, they have different variations of animation.
Oh, see, that's what I was asking. I think that's where I'm sitting. Like, where do you get those characters? Where do you get the backdrop? Do they have formulated templated backdrops, or?
Some of them have that. You can request additional.
Well, I'm just curious. I have no idea. So, like, do they have the backdrop, or do you create your own idea of your backdrop in some format, and then you say, can you reproduce this idea for me in animated characters? And then you give them the content sectioned off, and they do the whole design.
So some sellers will offer template backdrops already. You can select it based on the extra. Others, you can send them a message and ask them, this is what I have in mind. Can you offer something like this? And if they don't, going back to what we said earlier with the buyer, you can throw it out there, and there will be a seller who will say, I can do this for you.
Okay.
And one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up. But good news is you can still have a little time for ask cash and text directly and meet each other.
Yeah, so kind of in that vein, is it common for buyers and sellers to want to run ownership, saying like $5 on the storyboard and 20 drawn a certain number of frames in animation and go from there? And how easy is it to like maintain that ownership in this huge ginormous marketplace?
So that's actually very common, especially with our top-rated sellers. Over time, we'll get returning buyers for very specific things. And as they build that relationship, there are other needs for the buyer. So if you're a startup who needs a logo, you work with someone with amazing design work, maybe down the road you're revamping your site and need an additional page. They can help you with another logo or graphic design. So definitely with our level 2 and top-rated sellers, we know that they have a very good relationship with this buyer, and they tend to get repeat buyers over time. And they build that. It takes time, but they build that relationship over time. And we've made changes within the inbox system so that you can identify who your core buyers are. So it's easier to keep that conversation going when your order comes in, or you just want to say hello or have a Merry Christmas during Christmas. And it's easier to identify when the times that all the conversation just dropping down.
Good news, we also did record this, so if there's anything you want missed or you forgot, I'll send you everyone a video link. And want to give everyone time to go, and that's kind of what the event is about. And, any last thoughts?
No, I mean, this was great. There were some really good thought-provoking questions for us to take back to the team.
Thanks for your time. I think when we meet with buyers and sellers, we get questions are very geared towards what their needs are and what they're trying to get out of it, but I think some of the questions we got here, were not just about the platform itself and how it works with freelancing. In many cases, while Fiverr is a freelancing platform, Constantine alluded to this earlier, it's a second and third resource for other people. So we like to kind of work with sellers, especially in this kind of environment, smaller groups where we can educate them on what Fiverr is, how to take advantage of it as a buyer.